The story of Judah and Tamar in Genesis 38 is disturbing to say the least. A destitute widow disguises herself as a prostitute, tricks her father-in-law into sleeping with her, and then he later tries to have her burned alive. So what was the purpose of such a tale? Well, to begin with, Genesis 38 is not just a messed up story. It's also an unexpected cutaway from the main story. You see, it happens in the middle of the well-known tale of Joseph being sold into slavery in Egypt. The story focuses heavily on Joseph as he is sold by his brothers and put to work as a slave in the house of Potiphar. Then the story just forgets Joseph and jump cuts over a decade into the future, into this odd tale where Judah sleeps with his daughter-in-law Tamar. Notice how DreamWorks conveniently left this chapter out of King of Dreams. So let's start with the most important question. Is it pronounced Tamar or Tamar? Google, how do you pronounce Tamar?
My biblical Hebrew is a little rusty, but according to modern Hebrew pronunciation it would be said Tamar, like the name Tamara.
Well, there you have it. So Tamar marries Judah's firstborn son, whose name was I didn't pause, that was his name. The text doesn't tell us much about him. He is described as wicked and says that God killed him. So with Tamar a widow, there was a custom where the brother-in-law was obligated to marry the widow. This is often called levirate marriage. So Judah's second son, Onan, stepped in and married Tamar. The text says Onan didn't want to have children with Tamar because they wouldn't truly be his, and he euphemistically spilled his seed on the ground. This offended God, and so Onan was killed too. So Judah only had one more son, Shelah. But Judah had become somewhat superstitious that Tamar would somehow be the cause of the death of his third son too. So he left her a widow, all the while promising that one day when his son grew older, she would be wed to him. But the years went by and Tamar saw that this was not going to happen. Being a widow in the ancient world was a bad category to be in. Family was your primary support system. With no family to look after you, it was a very bad place to be in. Tamar knew that, so she took matters into her own hands. She disguised herself, covering her face, apparently in a way that made her look like a prostitute, and she went to wait in the town where Judah was working. Judah's wife had passed away, and after some time, he went up to sheep shearing country, where he saw the disguised Tamar. He presumed her to be a prostitute and wanted to sleep with her, and he offered a baby goat as payment. The disguised Tamar took some personal items from him as a deposit until he paid her in full: a seal, a cord, and a staff. A few months later, Tamar was home and visibly pregnant. When Judah found out, he was furious that Tamar had become pregnant out of wedlock, calling her a harlot. He sentenced her to be burned alive. But in a turn of legal brilliance, as she was brought out for punishment, she exclaimed that she could identify the man whose child she bore, and she produced the personally identifying items that Judah had given the disguised prostitute. Judah realized that he had wronged Tamar in not providing a husband for her, and he exclaimed that she was more right or righteous than he was. Tamar finally gave birth to twins, and that is the last we hear of her. So what is the point of such a disturbing story? Scholars generally agree that this little cutaway episode was not written by the same author or authors who wrote the Joseph story. So why did they insert this episode? Well, the character of Judah has a lot to do with it. You see, while there's a lot of debate about the book of Genesis, one thing most critical scholars agree on is that there was an independent Joseph story about Joseph being sold into slavery, and at some later point, a pro-Judah editor has inserted several passages that turn Judah into a rival to Joseph as leader of the family. They inserted this story of Judah and Tamar in chapter 38, several other smaller sections sprinkled throughout, and at least some of chapter 49. In chapter 49, the 12 sons of Israel receive a series of blessings or curses from their father. The first 3 sons are disqualified from blessings, and Judah, the 4th eldest, receives a great blessing with lots of royal imagery. the scepter will not depart from Judah. But wait a minute, Judah kind of sucks in this story. He raised sons that the author considered wicked, he sleeps with his daughter-in-law, and he tries to have her executed. And this is all after he sold his little brother into slavery. He's not exactly the sort of character you would expect to receive a great honor. But many commentators understand this episode as a turning point for the character of Judah. The author uses irony to connect Judah's wrongdoings in this episode to his previous mistakes. In Genesis 37, Judah tricked his father into believing Joseph was dead with the blood of a baby goat. In this episode, Judah offers a baby goat as payment to a prostitute, which would be his undoing. The author uses this to show how his actions have circled back on himself. And when Tamar proved that Judah got her pregnant, he comes to the realization of his wrongdoings. Judah then calls Tamar tzadak, the Hebrew word for right or righteous. And so this episode marks a change in Judah's character, from the self-centered figure who sold his brother Joseph into slavery to the Judah who would later offer to sacrifice himself to save his younger brother Benjamin in Genesis 44. But this is more than just a story of a family drama. The tale reflects ancient Israelite politics. You see, the story purports to cover events set in the 2nd millennium BCE, but scholars widely agree it was actually created many centuries later, likely after the exile of the northern Israelites. While Judah is a character in the story, he represents the tribe of Judah and those who claimed their heritage from that tribe, as opposed to Joseph, who had come to represent the northern tribes because he was the father of Ephraim and Manasseh. The story established that King David came from the tribe of Judah through Tamar's son Perez. By giving Judah 2 sons, the author presents him as an alternative to Joseph, who also had 2 sons. Judah getting tricked mirrors his grandfather Isaac getting tricked and gives him the credentials of a Genesis patriarch. In this way, it's a story that shaped ancient Israel's cultural memory and explains and justifies how Judah became the most powerful tribe in Israel. It's not a historical story about events in the 2nd millennium. It reflects the political ideologies of a much later period. But it's not all politics. The story does invite a degree of moral reflection. Scholars have reflected a great deal on the characterization of Tamar. Even though Tamar's actions might have been considered morally dubious by the Hebrew Bible's standards, the story ends with Judah calling her more right or righteous than he was. Tamar is actually the only woman in the Hebrew Bible who is ever called the Hebrew word for righteous, tzadak. The tale invites reflection on the fact that Tamar was marginalized, having been abandoned, yet through her actions she brought about justice for herself and her family. She acted outside the boundaries of what was morally acceptable, but the narrative considers her justified in doing so. The story challenges the rigidness of certain moral standards, but the story was controversial in ancient times for this reason. Some ancient interpreters like Philo and Pseudo-Philo defended Tamar's actions and revered her as a matriarch. But other interpreters like the author of Jubilees felt the need to change the story to make Judah seem less bad and to make Tamar more at fault. Josephus omitted the story altogether, as he did some other controversial passages. These controversies highlight the complex moral character of the story. So there you have it. The story of Judah and Tamar is a strange and cruel tale, but one that has an interesting place in the Hebrew Bible. As always, I'll leave some sources in the description. My name is Lachlan, and you've been watching Tablets and Temples, where we tackle interesting topics in ancient history and religion. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed this video, consider chucking me a few dollars each month. It really helps videos like this get made, where we take complex scholarship and make it accessible.